Yo, what up guys? So I just finished up the sponsored YouTube video with Hyundai, and I just wanted to take a second to share with you the process of how I landed this gig in the first place and my process of working with big brands and some of the challenges to be aware of. Also, to see a full breakdown of the post-production on this project, I go in-depth talking about all my creative decisions in the editing room on this project in the virtual job shadow section, so check it out there if you want to see the post-production. But first off, how do I land a big client like Hyundai? Two things. One is quality content, two is engagement on social media channels. The second one, engagement, is a direct result of mastering the first one, quality content. If you can produce quality, consistent content that is relevant, relatable, shareable, and brings value to the lives of other people, then you will automatically attract an engaged audience over time. Now, for this specific gig, I asked the agency that hired me, why did you guys choose me for this project? And they said, because of your high engagement on your YouTube and Instagram videos, meaning lots of views and comments, and because your content fits in line with the brand and this project. Now, keep in mind, this is an influencer marketing project, which means they are hiring me not only for my video production skills, but also for my distribution channels on YouTube and Instagram. So to land projects specifically like this, you not only have to be able to produce high quality video content, you need to have an engaged audience that regularly tunes in to that content, so that brands like Hyundai will want to utilize your channels and that audience to promote their products. Now, quick side note, most big brands will only work with influencers that have family-friendly content, so if you want to attract big clients, make sure you aren't posting work to your social channels that are sexually explicit, that have bad language, excessive violence, drug promoting, or anything that you wouldn't feel comfortable showing to children. Again, most big brands won't even contact you if your content isn't in line with their branding. Now, let me break down how these projects work. I don't work directly with Hyundai. Hyundai hires an ad agency, and then that agency puts out their feelers looking for influencers on social media that will be a good fit for this brand. On this project, that ad agency didn't actually find me directly organically searching through YouTube, but rather they are connected with other agencies, and one of those agencies they're connected with happens to be one out of New York that has my agent Josh working for them. And an agent is somebody that represents you and goes around pitching you to brands for projects. And if that agent lands you a job that you accept, they usually take about 10% from that job as commission. So Hyundai's ad agency connected with my agent Josh, and Josh proposed me as one of their influencers that he thought would be a good fit for this project. Then Hyundai's agency takes a look at my YouTube channel and Instagram channel. They see that my content is high quality, engaging, family friendly, that I'm the right demographic that they are wanting to promote this product to. So they agree that it's a good fit and they start the negotiating process. This is where it's awesome to have an agent because they negotiate budgets every day with big brands, so they know what these brands should be paying, so they'll make sure to get you what you're actually worth. And this in turn makes it worth me paying him 10% because he's getting me a lot more money than I would have negotiating by myself, making up for that 10% that I'm paying him. Now, as far as how to get an agent for yourself, I'm sure that you can go out contacting agencies yourself. However, the way it usually works is as you grow a following, agents or agencies will contact you wanting to represent you. I've probably gotten over 100 offers from different agencies wanting me to sign deals with them, but I agreed to work for Josh because he didn't make me sign anything. He just said, let me get you some deals. If you want them, you can say yes and I'll take 10%. If not, no worries, no pressure. So Josh has been representing me for over a year, and this is actually the first project that I said yes to since it was the first brand that I believed in and the budget was worth my time. So Josh proposed to Hyundai's agency a budget of $20,000. The agency came back with $18,000. Josh told me, does that work for one Instagram video, 2 Instagram video stories, and 1 YouTube video? I said, that sounds great. He said, look, I can make them do away with the Instagram post since they're not meeting you at the $20,000, so that you only have to do 1 YouTube video. And I said, no, that's okay. I'll be posting content on my Instagram anyway. Might as well make the brand happy and tag them, so just keep that in the deal. So we agreed to $18,000, which means Josh takes $1,800, so I'll end up making around $16,000. Also, I get this question a lot, do your budgets include travel or does the client pay for that? For this project, the client paid for all the travel, lodging, food, and for a +1 to come with me, so I will actually be profiting $16,000 on this project. But some brand deals, like the LG one that I did last year, will just give you a total budget budget and then make you pay for travel and expenses and everything, so it just depends on the project. But for this Hyundai project, they had a couple dozen other influencers there as well, so they planned everyone's travel to make sure everybody was in the right places at the right times for all the meetings and car presentations and all that. So again, just depends on the project, but if they are making you pay for your own expenses, make sure to factor that into your budget. Once we agreed on the budget, Hyundai's agency sent over a contract letting me know what they expected from me on this project for the money that they'd be paying me. They then give me some do's and don'ts, like make sure to tag the brand in any posts you do, make sure that there's never any other logos in the photos or videos, make sure you don't mention any other car brands or do any type of comparisons to other brands, and make sure to mention at least 2 or 3 features you like about the car from a list of features that they'd be giving me, and you have to make sure to state vocally as well as in writing on screen for legal purposes that this video is sponsored by Hyundai. That's pretty much it. So I signed the contract and the pre-production begins. Now at this point, they'll usually request that I write them a script so they can get a good idea of what the video is going to look like and approve that, but this was a more relaxed client and they didn't actually ask for any script. However, because I cared about the project and wanted it to turn out really well, I made a script for myself so that I would have a good idea of what to shoot and help me structure the story as I went along shooting. And here's just a quick look at that script I wrote up for this project. In my head, I thought it would be cool if I start off with a cinematic sequence for maybe 20 to 30 seconds showing the beauty of Hawaii. Then I'd introduce the video and mention that the video was sponsored by Hyundai. Then another cinematic sequence showing some pretty car footage. Then me talking about the car and integrating it organically by mentioning that I'm already a Hyundai owner. Then another cinematic sequence showing off the car. Then talk about 2 or 3 features that I like about the car. And this wasn't something I could really plan for because I didn't know yet what I liked about the car, so this was something that I had to improvise once I started testing out the car. Then another cinematic sequence of us doing some fun activities in Hawaii and using the car as transportation, throwing it in organically as possible so it doesn't seem forced. And then of course an outro with a call to action to Hyundai's website and then integrating my own brand into promote full-time filmmaker, and that's it. So that was the quick script I threw together the day before the shoot to make sure I had a game plan going into it and knew the story, or at least an outline of the story that I was trying to tell. Again, it's great to be as prepared as possible, but a lot of the things we couldn't plan for because we didn't have enough information yet, but there were other things we could have planned better for, so we'll talk about some of those things here. So let's talk about some of the challenges we faced while actually shooting the project. First challenge we faced was weather. It was nasty, cloudy, and rainy pretty much the whole time. And a lot of you ask what to do to protect my gear from rain. To be honest, not much. If it's raining super hard, I'll pull out a rain sleeve, but for this project it was mostly sprinkling and my 1DX is weather sealed, so I can shoot as long as we need, as long as it's lightly raining. Even my Phantom 4 Pro shot can handle some sprinkling rain, and if you look closely in the footage, you can actually see some water droplets on the lens in some of the drone shots. But we did our best with the weather we had. For the Red, it's not weather sealed, so I could only use it for a minute or so at a time before it started getting too wet. So we'd shoot in small bursts, or I'd shoot things in the interior of the car and cover most of our talking points while it was raining outside. But there's almost always things you can be doing even when the weather acts up. You just have to think proactively. The next challenge was shooting a lot in a limited amount of time. We only had 2 days to film with the car and wanted to over-deliver on this project, so I made sure to use every second of the day to capture great content. Now, most of the other influencers there were out getting drunk every night and just having a fun vacation because they were in Hawaii, but my attitude is that if I'm going to be away from my family for 3 days, I'm going to work the entire time and get stuff done. My goal with this project wasn't just to make 16 grand, but rather to please the client with the final product, so much so that they will want to work with me again in the future. And if you over-deliver, it's much easier to charge more the second time because they feel like they got a spanking deal the first time. Also, I wanted this project to do really well so that I could use it as a demo piece to pitch what I can do for big brands to other big brands. My agent actually asked me if I have a demo reel showing off my big brand projects, and I said I don't, so I wanted to make sure that I got some amazing footage to show off a demo reel for future brands. Which leads me to our next challenge, and that was resources. I knew I wanted to get some commercial-like shots of the car filming out of the back of another car, but we only had the one Kona and me and Jake was going to be driving the Kona, so I needed another car and another driver. So I spent almost $1,000 to fly out one of our full-time filmmaker members, the amazing Charles from Oahu, told him to rent a car and meet us on the other side of the island and that I'd reimburse him for everything. So he flew in, rented a car with an open back, and drove 2 hours to the opposite side of the island, all so that I could film some money shots for about 2 hours until the sunset. Now, most people would say that an extra $1,000 $1,000 for 2 or 3 pretty shots might not be worth it, but I knew these money shots would be used for years to come to show off what I can do for big brands, and I can guarantee that because of those shots, I'll land future clients worth way more than $1,000. Next challenge was filming out of the back of a car. Now, concerning legality of doing this, the car was going normal speeds, not doing anything illegal. We were either in a 2-lane road or passing on legal pass areas, so no need for a closed course on this one. It was public roads, so no restrictions on filming there. The only thing that was illegal was the fact that I wasn't wearing a seatbelt, so that's the only thing I could see getting fined for. But to be safe, you should be harnessed in. We kind of run and gunned this one and took some risks, but I'm super cautious when I'm doing it. But do as I say, not as I do. Harness yourself in. But basically how I coordinated this was I had Charles driving the car that I was in. He's on a walkie-talkie with Jake, who's driving the Kona. I tell them both the plan, that we're going to go about 30 miles per hour. Charles would try to maintain the same speed. Jake would try to maintain a really close distance from our car since I was using a wide angle lens. So he'd have to be super close to us in order to fill the frame with the car. And then after the first take or two, I showed Jake what the footage was looking like so he could see that he wasn't following close enough. And then we'd do another take, improving our process until we nailed the shot. Okay, that's good enough for this spot. We got awesome light right now. Let's bounce to the next spot. Now, we probably did 15 to 20 takes and only ended up using 2 or 3 of the shots in the final video, so that gives you an idea of how much work goes into getting a couple pretty shots. Also, along the lines of spending my own money to get great shots, I spent $400 for a helicopter ride for me and Jake, just so that we'd have some extra diversity of content to make the video feel more exciting and more action-packed. Which reminds me of another challenge we faced, and that was booking the helicopter tour. Had we planned ahead a little bit better, I would have booked a helicopter tour weeks in advance, but because I didn't know the brand's schedule until we got there, I couldn't really book anything yet. So after our first day of shooting, I had Jake call around to all the helicopter tours on the island, looking for a tour that had doors off so that we could film out of the heli. Unfortunately, everything was already booked up, so we had to settle for a helicopter that had doors on. So our shots weren't as good as they could have been, but it was better than nothing. But the point is, plan ahead as much as possible. Other challenges we faced were filming the drone shots of the car driving by. Ideally, we would have had 2 guys with walkie-talkies on each side of the road letting us know when the traffic was clear because I didn't want other cars in the shot. But again, it was just me and Jake, so we'd be driving along. I'd see a pretty road that I like. We'd stop, get out. I'd get the drone out, call Jake on my phone, put him on speaker, put him in my pocket, and tell him when there was no cars coming. Then I'd have him drive back and forth on these pretty stretches of road until I got a variety of shots that I liked, and then we'd pack up, keep driving until we saw another pretty stretch of road. Again, I probably only used about 1% of the total aerial footage that I captured on this trip, so always capture more than you think you'll need. As far as location scouting goes, we're honestly just location scouting as we go, finding pretty spots along the way, and having Jake in the passenger seat looking up pretty spots on his phone. But again, we do as much pre-planning, location scout as much as we can, research online top 10 prettiest spots on Hawaii's Big Island, and then hit up as many of those as we can while stopping at as many other pretty spots along the way as we have time for. And one more challenge I'll talk about is organic product integration. This is one of the hardest things to do, is figuring out and finding a fine line between pleasing the brand with enough product placement without pissing off your audience by shoving a commercial in their face. Now, I don't do this perfectly, sometimes better than others, but while shooting, I'm constantly thinking in the back of my head ways to present the product in a way that feels organic and natural and not forced. Instead of just showing pretty shots of the car at the dealership, I integrated the car as a mode of transportation that helped us get around the island to have an awesome adventure. So by making the car a character in our story, it becomes more of a hero rather than a distraction and just an ad. Again, this is tough to do, and it's best learned through trial and error of learning what your audience does and doesn't like, so don't be afraid of failure, but make sure to take the feedback you do get and use it for your next projects. Also, throughout the whole time we were shooting, my goal was to get as much footage as possible, giving me flexibility in the editing room. Always shoot more than you think you'll need. And then once in the editing room, I spent about 4 days on this edit, taking my time, looking through all the footage and deciding which clips would look best where and how to best structure the story of the trip in the least amount of time and as organically as possible. That's all I'm going to say about editing. Again, if you want to see the full breakdown of how I did this edit, make sure to go check out the virtual job shadow section. The last question I want to answer in this video is someone asked, once the video is done and uploaded to your YouTube channel, is that the final video for the client, or do you send them a separate video that is different from the YouTube video? The answer, some clients will request a separate version of the video for their own internal purposes. But with influencer marketing deals like these, the brand is paying, again, not only for the video production, but for the space of the video to live on your YouTube channel. In other words, like we talk about, content is king, distribution is queen. They are paying for the content and the distribution. Distribution being through your following on your channels in this case. So yes, my YouTube upload is the final video for the client. This is oftentimes more effective way for brands to advertise through an influencer in an organic way rather than their voice in just a straight up advertisement coming from their brand. So if you'd like to land gigs like this, get out there, start creating shareable, valuable content on a consistent basis, and as you do so, you will start to build a following of fans who look forward to that content. And as that engagement grows, so will the budgets coming from big brands like Hyundai. But that's all I got, guys, for this little behind the scenes look at working with brands. If you have any further questions, please let me know.